Another question that we have here is as far as giving tips. Okay, what tip do you have for a new player? Okay, and this is some of the question that you actually suggested that I bring up. So, what for a new player? What tips do you have?
Number one tip is move every piece. Now, the reason I say I don't actually physically mean move. Sometimes like your move might be not to move that piece. But lots of times new players, they'll only move the pieces that they kind of, oh, I want to do this and I don't know what to do with this force and Soviet Far East, I'm just going to leave it alone. Or I have, an American fleet in the Pacific that's small and I'm focused on Europe, so I'm just going to leave it in place. That seems to be a downfall of a lot of players. And it's like, you know what? You need to sit there and think about every single piece and give it some kind of task to do. If it's not doing something, it's not producing for you. Axis and Allies is one in the efficiencies. So, consciously make a decision for every piece. And that process is going to help you right out to when you're a veteran player later.
Keep the thought. We're going to end this segment of the interview. We're going to pause it now because I can only upload 50 minutes at a time to YouTube. All right. So we'll continue the second half of the Gargantua Detroit interview. All right, guys, welcome back. So we're going to continue the second half of this interview, okay? And we were just talking about how what tips does Gargantua give to a beginner player, a new player to the game, okay? And of course, this kind of reminds me. You mentioned you suggest that as a new player you move all your pieces on the board, okay? This reminds me of chess. Okay, I'm a chess player. I used to play chess avidly when I was younger. And one of the things that I always tended to notice with rookie players was that they would only move one or two pieces on the board. There's a concept in chess that calls for developing your pieces. The more pieces you develop on the chessboard, the more options you have during the middle game and the end game. Okay, so it's interesting that I don't know if you're a chess player or not, but the same concept applies in Axis and Allies. You have to develop your pieces, so this way later on, you have options. If you only develop one or two or three pieces or four, you're going to be limited as to what your options are. So that makes perfect sense. Great advice. All right. So, all right. How about to advanced players? What advice do you have for people that are experienced, or if not experts at the game already?
Do your homework and don't get I'll say cocky or overconfident. Lots of times guys are like, oh, I've played this game so many times, I'm so good, doesn't matter, and they'll have done that, let's say 2-3 years ago. The strategies to this day, even for global 10 years later, are still developing and changing. For the longest time, it seemed that the Allied maneuver was to do Taranto, and that was the big way to win the game. Now that's considered like total folly and a very terrible maneuver. Generally with an alternative being, to amalgamate at Gibraltar. And that's been a nasty result for the Axis, and it's been a big problem until the Axis evolved and then developed the Germany 1 3-fighter build, right? And now we have what's called the Algerian Snake, which is you can take all your air force from West Germany, land them essentially in Algeria and obliterate any fleet that goes there. So now the Allies are trying to redevelop their strategy. And so what'll happen sometimes with veteran players, if they haven't played recently, or they think that they're top stuff, they don't do their homework and they're going to pay for it. The other thing too is there's, for new players, sometimes there's basically scripts that you can run of that, buy these things and do this, like buy, all build stuff for Moscow. And here's kind of an order to build it. And some players can run a script quite effectively, and the rest of the strategy doesn't matter so much if you don't know how to respond to it. And if you're not up to date on what can happen to you and how to counter it, even as a veteran, you're going to get knocked off your feet. So,
yeah, I can relate to that. I've not that I'm an expert player, but I'm pretty much a mid-level player. I can hold my own against good players, but unfortunately, I sometimes tend to play better with advanced players than with rookie players. And I don't know if that makes sense with that, because I think I'm underestimating my opponents at times. And I kind of like just not prepare for the game, because I'm thinking, oh, that guy only has 1 or 2 games under his belt. I should be able to take him out. So guilty. You know,
Yeah.
so I try to avoid.
Yeah.
No, it's a
You gotta do
great,
your homework.
great piece of advice there on your end. Okay, so I'm gonna throw out two words. It's three questions or three. I'm gonna throw out two words. You pick what best applies to you. Okay, are you tactical or strategic?
I got to be both, man. That's the only way to win. Sorry. I know you want one or the other. It's not going to give it to you. You got to have an overall strategy. It can be. It's very simple. It'll be a hedgehog principle. Like when I'm the allies, it's like all I have to do is make sure you don't win. So that's what I'm going to do. And then that becomes a tactical game of how do I delay, defer, deny, whatever I can do to slow you down and ruin your day and trip you up. And that's the tactical game.
I'm gonna press you back though. I'm gonna press you back. If you had to choose one, which one would it be?
Tactical.
Tactical. Okay.
Yeah. You can have the best strategy, but if you don't have any tactical way to employ it,
it means nothing.
Then you don't have a strategy.
Fantastic. Okay. All right. Reactive, proactive.
I'm proactive. Definitely.
Yes. I can see that. I've seen you play, and you're definitely not a reactive player. Okay.
No,
so
well, yeah, the goal is to get you off your game. If you get the person off their game, then you're going to win your game.
Okay. Another one, methodical or just all out for whatever.
There's no such thing as methodology in Axis and Allies because at the end of your turn, you don't know what you're going to get, right? What the dice determine and what your opponent attacks.
Okay. Yeah. All right.